in the Rose City. Time for Dirt and Sprague on Portland's sports leader 1080 The Fan. Happy Thursday, everybody. Schulte, how we doing?
Happy Thursday to you. Friday Eve, actually. Feeling good.
You're a Friday Eve guy, huh?
I'm one of those. When I started saying that, people are like,
I'm one of those.
What are you saying? It's like Friday Eve. It's the day before Friday, jackass. Open your ears. So I'm not the one in the wrong. Friday Eve.
Do you always get so worked up and angry?
No, I'm just trying to bring the energy at 6:01 in the morning. Punchy, ready to go, short sleep, but doesn't matter.
But poor Thursday just gets left on the back burner. You've now called him Friday Eve, and he's like, yo, I'm Thursday. I'm not a Friday Eve.
I didn't know Thursday was a him. I thought it was a her.
No. Tuesday's a her. Thursday's a him.
Okay. I did not know the rule.
Do you not know the sexual nature of the days?
No, why can't Tuesday and Thursday be hers?
No, because Thursday's a him. Friday's a her. Yeah, Tuesday's a her as well.
Gotta explain to me the nuance of this off air, because I'm sure there's something really dirty behind it, right?
There's nothing dirty at all about it. It's just the sex of the days.
The sex of the
What does Monday feel like to you, a man or a woman? When I say Monday, do you hear Monday or do you hear like Monday?
I hear Monday.
So you think Monday's a woman?
That's sure. I'll just go with you on that one. I just think Monday sucks in general. I don't think days having sexes.
Wow. Monday.
Days having
Don't disrespect
sexes.
old Monday. You not like your job?
I never said I didn't like having a job or my job. I just said that Mondays aren't that great.
You've brought us to this hellscape, and this is your fault. This is how we got here, was your Thursday comment on calling it Friday's Eve.
Laying in bed last night, I did not think that the opening segment of today's show would be about sexes 4 days of the week. So thank you for taking me there, and I digress.
Sex is every day. I didn't think waking up at 4:17, contemplating my existence, and if I even wanted to be awake, I didn't know what we were going to do either to open the show. But when you call it a Friday's Eve, which you're not wrong by definition,
gets you going.
I'm going to stick up for old Thursday, my good friend Thursday.
I didn't know the days of the week needed sticking up for.
Absolutely.
We are. All right.
I'm a staunch defender of their names.
Well, especially because it's Super Week. So, you can't forget about Thursday on Super Week.
You cannot.
This is when they ask the really hard questions.
Damn right.
Pat, what were you eating for dinner on the third night that you were here in Vegas? Have you hit the blackjack tables yet, Pat? Oh, hey, Pat, your parents and you going out for drink? Oh, never mind.
Schulte, we didn't reach top 15 radio show in a mid-major market status by just overlooking days of the week and the names of them. Come on, Schulte.
You know what? I give all of the credit to you, and I will lean on your expertise for the rest of the show there, Sprague, okay?
Oh, it is, are you getting the Super Bowl vibe? You're throwing a party. You got your food. You got everything ready. You know what you're gonna make. Like, how prepared are you for Sunday? Some people get prepared on Monday, Tuesday of the week.
Yeah,
I've been both people. Actually, I've been the three people. The three people are very early prepare. About kind of right now. You get your stuff. You get it ready, and then there's the panic shoppers. And I've been a panic shopper a couple times. Wake up Sunday. You start to see the team gear all throughout the grocery store.
Oh, God.
Everybody else is getting their stuff in order.
Already too late.
Where are you at right now? I have most of what I'm going to make food-wise. Mm-hmm. I'm missing one thing, and I don't know what that one thing is, but I feel like I'm missing just one thing.
So you're throwing a party as well, right?
I am not. No.
Oh, okay.
I have a pretty hardcore rule. If my team is in the Super Bowl, I don't get near anyone.
I gotcha.
Stay away from me. Don't bother me. You're not coming over. You could text me and say, come on, man, I want to just watch the game. I won't bother you. Sorry. Find a different venue. I cannot emotionally handle any other humans other than my wife and kids.
I mean, that's fair. If my Mariners win the World Series, I'm not sure I could just mosey on over to a party and be like, yeah, let's have a good time. I'll be on my couch gripping.
Yeah, like if there's a Game 7 World Series, Seattle Mariners against LA Dodgers
no way.
in LA or
Can't
in
enjoy
Safeco or T-Mobile, whatever the hell it is, I don't think you want to watch that game with anybody.
Talk about being a miserable sports fan. Yeah, I'm excited for that moment. It'd be awesome, but it'll be 3.5 hours of just total, like, hold on to the edge of the seat.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
That's what my week's been. I don't know if it's
sucks.
come across on the radio, but it's been difficult. I've tried to kind of balance this out. I'm finding that I'm falling off of the surfboard on this wave of balance, and it's just eating me up day by day. I see a cut, and I'm like, cool, Travis Kelce, probably going to get 9 catches for 130 yards. Patrick Mahomes, awesome. Probably going to be like, 24 of 28 and 280 yards and 2 tuds. And a killer phrase at the end of the Super. Hey, we're just a chase. We're chafing. Like, okay, cool, awesome. I've had to balance this stuff out all week. It's not easy, my friend.
Well, that's probably why you're trying to get all this food, or at least the list of stuff, ready to go beforehand. I
just don't want to worry about it. I just want to be like, wake up, not stress. Like, oh, it's all here. Just got to chop up some stuff and put this in the oven, and there you go.
I can't quite go very last minute like Sunday morning. I've got the hot corner with Joe and Rashad, so we're here. So if I left it to that point, I'm not sure I'm actually throwing a party. But I'll be honest, I'm not really sure how many people are coming, so I'm waiting until Saturday to see, like, okay.
You still don't have a head count?
It's going to be a smaller head count, and I'm just wondering if it's going to be like 4 people or like 8 people. So
How many were you prepared for?
Oh, like 15, but I just don't, have any friends, and it's okay.
You've said that a couple times on the show.
Well, I don't, because
I
literally
friends at all.
I have I have my best friend, which I'm very lucky to have. We've been buddies since we were 15 and 16 in high school. So I think just one is anybody has a friend like that, very lucky to have. But I got about, I'd say 3 or 4 other solid people that I would just invite anytime.
Are they going to be at the party?
2 of them will, for sure.
Then you know what? If the other 15 don't show up, who cares?
They don't. They don't care. But it's okay. And no, I'm not talking about anybody at the station. There are other people in my life that, like I reach out to, and then don't you love it when you send that text to somebody you think like, hey, throwing a party, would love to have you. Like you appreciate their presence, and then they just don't text you back at all. It's like, oh, that sucks. I thought that I was something in your life.
Well, that's a little depressing to hear, actually. I would reconsider being that person's friend, to be honest with you.
Oh, my wife has said that several times.
It's one thing to not,
very, very true.
Not go. It's I can't make it, I appreciate it, or whatever the reason is. It's another to not respond entirely.
What if one of those guys was one of the 5 on the altar at my wedding?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You learn how to bend a photo. You learn how to bend the photo to the point. Is he at the end? You could just bend the end and kind of keep it in there and it cut it out, and then there's like only 4 people at your wedding now?
No, my sister
5?
was at the end. I got a Photoshop, so we got 4 dudes and my sister.
You could say that there's just more women than there is men. I've seen
equal opportunity.
I've seen an unbalanced bridal party.
I love that nowadays.
6 women, 4 dudes. I 5 guys, 4 ladies. I've seen it a little off kilter a little bit.
But I was a bridesman for my sister, so I had my sister be she was a groom's lady for me.
How about that?
Yeah. Hey, yeah. Everything here in 2022 and on works, because got married twice, once during the pandemic and once after that. So
you got married twice?
Well, 2 ceremonies, because my wife and we were originally scheduled to do our wedding the July as the pandemic was happening. So that got pushed back. But I'm like, damn, babe, I want to marry you.
So you got like legally married, and then you did like a ceremony.
Yeah, we went to the beach and kind of eloped with my best friend from high school and my other best friend, his wife, and we had a great time. Opened a bottle of Dom Perignon, and it was beautiful.
Dirt did this. He had a wedding scheduled for that summer, and then obviously it got railroaded.
A little bit.
And that was just it for him. He didn't. He did 2 bachelor parties, is what he did.
You jerk, but you're a smart jerk. I like it.
He played the right game. That's what I'll say to that.
Yes, he did.
You got the food though? Are you all ready?
Oh, I think so. I mean, we have a big old pork butt in the freezer.
Oh, you're doing a pork butt?
We're doing pulled pork. We'll do some sandwiches. I'll probably pick up. See, I like to have like homemade options and then just kind of the standards. My go-to for any party is a Taco Bell party pack. So I'm going to go go get one of those. You got to have...
You're going to do a Taco Bell, like what is that called? The
box.
It's like 7 burritos and like 7 tacos, like that thing?
Yeah, you could do like half hard tacos, half soft tacos.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Well, and you kind of like, you're going to do that?
Grande meal, isn't that what they call that? Or do I have that wrong? I remember when it came out.
Grande meal. I think that's like the grande meal is like something from back in the day. This is like the box, the especial box that they do. And every party that I brought it to or hosted and had it at, it's the first thing gone.
You're doing Taco Bell for Super Bowl Sunday. That's a spicy take.
Just a box, not like a bunch of Taco Bell. You try to offer a ton of fare. You got to have your wings. You got to have your pulled pork. You got to have some veggie options. But if you want some quick go-to, something that just to get the little food palate going when you walk in the door, those Taco Bell tacos, mwah. And you laugh at me, and everybody's like, Schulte with his McDonald's and his Taco Bell love. I'm just talking for parties, dude. Those Taco Bell party packs go like that. Always.
For me, it's dicey. I could see my stomach bubbling, and it's like mid-first quarter. I'm like, oh, no.
Well, maybe after 6, but if you have 1.
I got a kind of a weaker... I'm getting older, and my stomach's getting weaker.
So yesterday you started Old Man Get Off My Lawn to get going on the show. Today it's, getting older. My stomach's a little iffy at this point. One taco.
Yeah, I'm the guy popping a Tums in his pantry.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I had a bad burrito the night before and spent an hour on the pot because of it. So
know thyself, Schulte. I'm 3 years from 40. I am getting older, and my body and everything about me is changing in ways that I'm not always prepared for.
Looking in the mirror at this age is a fun game every day, isn't it?
It's okay. I don't feel like I'm aging the worst, but not also the best. I'm somewhere in the aging okay category.
Okay.
I'm not always unhappy about it, but I'm not always the happiest about it.
All right.
Right in the middle of that lane. That's where I'm residing of aging right now. I don't know where everybody else is on that. If you're 50 and you're feeling like crap, if you're younger than 35 and you whatever you're feeling, however old you are. I'm 37 and I feel like I'm right in the middle of the aging process. It's good some days. Other days I'm like, wow, there's a lot of wrinkles in that area. Didn't see that yesterday.
Well, my goal at this point, because I'm 34 going on 35 in 10 days. Oh my God, I can't believe it. I want to be one of those Bowflex people. Like, those commercials when we were kids, like, I'm 47 and I'm in better shape than I was 27. Yeah. Yeah, I guess at this point, that's what I have to strive for.
I don't think a Taco Bell party pack's helping you there. I think that's taking you the wrong. It's like the Taco Bell box is picking you up like a claw machine at a grocery store, and it's taking you away from the Bowflex. It's like, nope, that's not the direction. We're going the opposite way.
Come on, man. You got to enjoy life while you're here.
Hey, right? I'm not hating. I'm just telling you, if you want to be Bowflex, bro.
Yeah,
you want to be Chuck Norris ripped? Hey, Chuck Norris here for Bowflex. I'm shirtless and ripped, and you're not.
Yeah, I'm 82, and I look like I'm 52.
Hey, if you can pull it off, pull it off. You know what I mean?
Well, Chuck Norris's tears cure cancer, right?
I'm feeling the vibe, though. It feels we're closer. We're a day closer to the Super Bowl. We have a lot to talk about. We got some Super Bowl stuff to dive into today. Got some college football I want to talk about as well, Schulte. Your Oregon Ducks, quite the conversation starter in the recruiting world right now.
Oh, they always stir some drama lately. I just love having Dan Lanning around. Because of him, they're always in the conversation.
They certainly he has elevated them in a way that the program, even with Mario, it was really good, but he's elevated it to a level. Oregon State's in an interesting spot. We got some audio from head coach Trent Bray we'll get to today. So we'll talk a little college football. There's another coach in that sport that calls himself obsessed. And I want to ask this question as we get into the show. Who more likely is to win a title? You can only choose between the two. You can't say, whoa, no, none. They're never going to win. If you had to pick, who's more likely to win the title? Sark, Lanning. I find that one interesting given what I listened to with Steve Sarkisian yesterday, what we see with Dan Lanning. So we'll get to some Cruton stuff today on the old radio program. We got Ken Barkley at 8 a.m., and it's NBA trade deadline day. Will the Blazers do anything?
No.
Because a year ago today, we had a press conference, and we heard almost going to be offended with how we put our chips all in. and they've done nothing but dismantle the team and then not make any moves potentially on the deadline. Just an interesting spot from where we were a year ago to where we are now today. So we'll dive into all of it. It is a loaded show. Dirt and Sprague, it's good to be with you. Let's get it going on the Fan.
The
Bathroom break there, Schulte.
You got a stinky poo in there?
Well, you don't need to say that. It kind of goes without saying. Anytime you mention the bell. You know who else is a big fan of the TB? Old Dirt Johnson.
Ah, good old Dirt. And that means Smudge is going to be throwing it down here in a couple of years, too. So
years. Days, man. If you told me he slipped in a little that mystery meat and maybe a little lettuce and tomato, I wouldn't be shocked.
No, but that's tasty. And I'm telling you, Super Bowl Sunday, that's the time to eat that kind of stuff.
Schulte, if anybody was going to be lose their mind excited about walking into a party and seeing a Taco Bell party pack, it definitely would be Dirt.
That's fair.
He would probably just pencil in that he was going into that party on a yearly basis based on having a Taco Bell party pack.
You got to get to the bell, right?
You do. Dong.
Thank you. I don't have one. Sorry.
That's okay. Is Travis Kelce the greatest tight end of all time? I want to talk about that coming up. One former great tight end, one that you could certainly put in the conversation, I think, based on the physical ability and what his career was, says yes. I find it interesting when all-time athletes at the position tell you, this guy's the best that's ever done it, and the immediate response is, no. Now, look, his opinion doesn't have to be the opinion, but I found myself kind of doing that. I was like, I don't know about that. So we'll talk about that coming up. Interesting news developing in the media world yesterday with old Nick Saban. You see Nick Saban's going to be on game day, Schulte?
I did see that hire. I frankly love it. I'm now like 25 years into like solidly watching college football every single season in my life. Used to hate Nick Saban. Now I'm in love with him. And now I'm excited to watch him every day on college every Saturday on ESPN College Game Day.
Yeah, he's going to be on game day. I think I read that he's doing SEC Media Day and he's doing the NFL Draft.
Oh, so you know what? Maybe we'll hear some insight from somebody besides Mel Kiper Jr., which I love. We got to at some point, which I'm not trying to knock the guy, but at some point, other than him and Todd McShay, I would like to hear, from a few other voices. It does need to be thrown on, and not just like young guys trying to make their way, but I would really like some prominent people already in the sport, like Nick Saban. I think that's a great idea.
Well, with all the SEC players that get picked in the first couple rounds, I mean, every year it feels like it's like the SEC had 19 of the first round picks. You're like, oh yeah, that's right. They recruit all the 5 stars, and
that's fair.
The top players that come out of college tend to be the best prospects. No shocking development there. He can certainly offer a lot. I am interested to hear just the analysis in general from a Nick Saban. I know we've had it a couple times during halftimes and pregame shows of national championship games. I didn't think this was a big shocking development that he decided to do this. It kind of felt like, I don't know, if he wasn't going to keep coaching, I still maintain he'd be maybe the greatest athletic director. And I know he may not know the ins and outs of that job, but if there was anybody that was going to be obsessed with it to the point of like, I want to be the greatest athletic director of all time, it would be Nick Saban. Because you take the competition part, you take, all of what you need to be great in that. He's got relationships. He strikes me as somebody who would be really good at that gig and also take it very personally.
Yeah.
Because the competitive stuff isn't going to go away with him. It's just the day-to-day, the recruiting, you know what I mean? Like, he's got to find ways to harness the competitiveness, being probably the greatest coach in college football history without debate. And I think he could do it there. But if he can harness it on television, it's probably going to be must-watch TV. Now, is he going to be overly critical? I wouldn't put a lot of eggs in that basket. I don't think you're going to get Nick Saban like, you know what? I think Les Miles needs to be on that old hot seat. But I think what you will get is a really good explanation of schematics, really good kind of feedback or thought on situational football. And for me, I like having some takes in my life. I also love being informed and trying to understand a sport that I watch and care about more than anything else that I watch and care about combined. We spend more hours watching NFL and college football from August till now that it's like, how many of us really understand the nuances to it? A lot of us don't. We get a lot of basic stuff, but I like when people like Nick Saban are able to kind of walk me through and explain, like, this is why I would do this. Like, oh, okay. The greatest coach in college football history telling me why he runs this play or why he would be thinking this on this down and distance.
Well, it's an easy hire for ESPN. We know that he speaks, really well to crowds. He's obviously given really, attitude-filled press conferences, but also had a lot of funny moments throughout his career. So the charisma's there. And you see guys like John Madden that transformed NFL broadcasting. It's that legendary coach aspect that, when you bring that to the broadcasting side, especially in 2023, there's maybe a handful of guys that you could hire and have that prestige. Nick Saban is one of them. There's really nothing else to do, for ESPN College Game Day. You just kind of hopefully Lee Corso will ride off into the sunset gracefully, and Nick Saban will be there for the rest of his life while he's able to speak up there.
Oh, you think Corso's going to ride off gracefully? You think this has been gracefully?
I'm being nice.
Yeah, okay. It's like the most obvious thing to everybody that cares or watches.
Awful.
Yeah, it's not
awful.
great. When
I say walk off gracefully, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all in this case for him, because he's been a legend in the game. It's obvious that he probably shouldn't be up there, but I don't know what else to say about Lee Corso. But you hope that Nick Saban's going to be there and take that mantle for the next 10 to 15 years. But I'm interested, kind of when Tony Romo got in, doing color analyst with Jim Nantz, color analyst work on CBS.
Jim!
At least in the beginning, it was really nice to hear the simple translations of what was going on in the moment. Now,
he would predict.
Yeah.
They're going to run left here. Hey, this is a play action pass. Hey, watch the tight end here. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And then he cared more about golf instead of like keeping up with coaches and philosophies and studying film. I have a thing on Romo for tomorrow's show. I know that's not a good tease because it's today, but I have a thing about Romo on tomorrow's show because he's going to be on the Super Bowl, man.
I know.
This could be a great game. Maybe the Chiefs blow out the Niners. Maybe the Niners find something and they get to Mahomes.
They're going to blow him out, Brandon.
I don't know, Jim. But I have a thing on Romo for tomorrow that you're kind of hitting at that I want to talk about. I don't think Saban, he's not going to be calling the games. He's only doing studio stuff.
Yeah.
And I think he could be really good in that element. So I was excited to see the news yesterday that Nick Saban will be on my television every Saturday. Coming up next, the GOAT tight end. If one great athlete at a position says, this guy's the best to do it at my position, that should hold more weight than people who never played the position, right? Or not. We'll get to that next on The Fan.
This is a Super Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update is brought to you by Vulcan Design and Construction. Check out their award-winning outdoor living designs or schedule your free design consultation at vulcandc.com. First, on The Fan, a few deals already being made before the NBA trade deadline at noon today. The Boston Celtics acquiring forward Xavier Tillman from the Memphis Grizzlies for a couple second-round picks. Also, the Timberwolves flipping guard Shake Milton, Troy Brown Jr., and a 2030 second-round pick to the Pistons for guard Monte Morris. And in a separate deal, Detroit is grabbing forward Simone Fontecchio from the Utah Jazz for a 2024 second-round pick. The Trailblazers begin a 7-game homestand tonight as the league-worst Detroit Pistons visit Moda Center. Portland 5.5-point favorites. Tip-off set for 7 p.m. on Root Sports. On the college hardwood last night, the Portland Pilots get smacked 96-64 by Gonzaga. Lots of action tonight as well, though. The Ducks trying to hang on to second place in the Pac-12, hosting the Washington Huskies. Oregon a 7.5-point favorite. Coverage getting going right here on The Fan at 6:30. You can also watch tip-off at 7 p.m. on FS1. And the Beavers host the Washington State Cougars. They're 8.5-point underdogs, though. Tip-off for that also at 7 p.m. on Pac-12 Network. And in baseball, Blue Jays first baseman Vladimir Guerrero Jr. won a record $19.9 million in salary arbitration. It marks the highest ever amount given to any player by the Toronto Blue Jays after an arbitration hearing. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. The playoffs, the big game. Watch and wager on all the action at Spirit Mountain Casino. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
You're invited to play in the first annual Fan Winter Golf Classic at X Golf Tualatin and X Golf Vancouver.
greatest tight end to ever exist? This is a question that's been lingering, I think, for a couple years. He's got the most 1,000-yard seasons consecutively in tight end history. He's got the most receptions in playoff history, broke Jerry Rice's record in that Baltimore Raven game where he had 11 catches for over 100 yards, and was 16 yards short. Would have had 8 straight years of 1,000 yards receiving had he not sat in the final game of the year. Schultz, he finished 16 yards, short of 1,000 receiving yards in what everybody classified, and I probably said it to some extent, but what everybody classified as a, quote, down year. He finished with 93 catches and 984 yards.
As he's getting older.
Only 5 tuds, though. It's the least he's had in the last 4 seasons.
Well, I'm pretty sure Kansas City didn't score as much either, but yeah.
Well, I don't know what to do with this. So, like, I don't always participate. I've been kind of run and beaten into the ground of GOAT talk with basketball stuff. Shocking. People who grew up watching more LeBron than Jordan picked LeBron. People who grew up with Jordan picked Jordan. People who grew up with Russell pick Russell. Like, everybody's got a GOAT. Jordan, the most universal one, but to the point. Sometimes, though, I like to talk about it, and not in basketball, but in this conversation in particular. Have you seen both Gronk and Shannon Sharp? Shannon Sharp dating it yesterday on Pat McAfee. Gronk, I believe, has now said it 2 or 3 different times. Those are 2 pretty well-respected and thought of tight ends, and they've both said this dude's the greatest at the position. Now, if somebody of that caliber says it, do we just, like, to hell with our thoughts, our opinions, our eyeballs, and say, well, if that person says it, it has to be true? Or do you say, okay, that's cool. I got my own take. And he's not the GOAT.
I'm interested to hear why. I mean, as far as
why he's the GOAT?
Well, why you don't think why you're not agreeing with that?
Well, I don't know if I don't agree with it. I think that's the hard thing with these.
Okay.
When you say greatest of all time, like, you know, you have to take into consideration style of play, era. Like Tony Gonzalez is probably one of them. I think he's one of the most accomplished players to exist at his position ever.
Fair.
Tony Gonzalez got to play with Patrick Mahomes. Would his numbers be Kelsey-like? I think they would, right? Because, I mean, I watched Tony Gonzalez. He was effing awesome. And those Chiefs teams he played for, they were good, but they clearly weren't this.
Mahomes would take Antonio Gates to the next level. Antonio Gates was a great tight end. Is he the best of all time? Probably not, but Mahomes would get him there.
I think that's the hard thing with this conversation is like the context of just that. Like, this guy has maybe the greatest quarterback, and I know accomplishment, resume, yada, yada, yada. If Mahomes wins on Sunday, he will have 3, and every year going into the season, seemingly in the next 5 to 8 years, you're probably going to say, he's in that top 4. They're going to be in the running. With or without Kelsey, you're going to still tell yourself that because, well, we see all-time great athletes all the time, and they prove us wrong. But I don't mean to say any of that about Kelsey with Mahomes to take anything away from Travis Kelsey because it also equally takes the greatness that he has to do what he's done. There's a really good read on him and Kittle. I got into a back and forth with a former Oregon State player, James Dockery, who I've had on the show a couple times. And we talked about this maybe 2 or 3. It might have been in 2019. It might have been the year they played in the first Super Bowl. And we were basically going back and forth. He thinks Kelsey's the best. And at that time, I was kind of defending my guy, George Kittle. Because George Kittle's also had a damn good start to his career. Now, Kittle's been a little banged up. He's dealing with a toe injury going into this game. Didn't really do a whole lot in that Lions game. I think he had 2 catches. One of them was from minus yards. But at that time, I was arguing Kittle, to me, is a better run blocker. And there's certainly, dynamics of the position that should be considered. But overall, like, even I would have to say, okay, well, since that conversation, I will tell you, Travis Kelsey is better. I love George Kittle. I think George Kittle's a great character and a fantastic football player. But Travis Kelsey's been doing this now for what feels like forever. When you have teams with dominance like this with Kansas City and that combination of Mahomes to Kelsey. I said this a week ago, Schultze. when my stepdad, he wouldn't play with us much. He'd largely kind of do his own thing, and I'd be left to my own, adventures. Once in a while, he'd throw a football, and he didn't really care about sports, but he'd throw a football, and he was always like, Montana to Rice, because he knew I was a Niner fan. And that was, the biggest names when he was younger. And what's funny now is like all the kids are going to make Mahomes to Kelsey, and how that's kind of become the new signature duo. But when great athletes at positions tell you, yo, that guy's the best, in basketball, this happens all the time. I hear Gilbert Arenas or Matt Barnes. Kobe's the greatest player of all time. And it's like, well, that guy faced Kobe Bryant. He obviously has some expertise and knowledge on it, but I am in no way agreeing with that opinion. And I never played against Kobe Bryant. But how much do you weigh what the all-time greats at the spot tell you when they say that guy's the greatest to ever lace him up at our spot?
I think that's the end-all, be-all word right there. I don't think us in the media, really saying anything matters at that point. When I heard Kobe Bryant, I love how you bring him up because I think of what he said about Brandon Roy. Rest in peace, Kobe. He was the hardest guy as far as defense. When Kobe was playing defense, he was the hardest guy to guard. Like on the other end, I remember Kobe saying like, that's another story. But Brandon Roy, those moves that Kobe, actually had to tell people about, like hearing that from the greatest of all time or one of the greatest of all time. All right, we know B. Roy is great as well. I don't see why we can't take this word from a tight end and say, especially looking at other tight ends, most of them, especially the top 10 all time, usually minus maybe Antonio Gates with Phillip Rivers, they're with great quarterbacks. You think Shannon Sharp, if he didn't play with John Elway, he
played in Baltimore too. He played with Dilfer, and he went and helped them win a ring.
Exactly, but that was near the end of his career. If he spent the first 12 years of his career with Randall Cunningham, if he's spent part of those years like on the 90s Eagles, I'm not sure he would have the same numbers as he did. He was one of Elway's like major weapons for a decade. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to give you stats. He's just got 815 catches, 10,000 receiving yards. I was trying to see his year by year because I remember the Baltimore seasons, and I thought he was pretty good in Baltimore. But again, I was a lot younger, and maybe I'm just misremembering the end of the career. So he ended up in Denver retiring, but he was in Baltimore for a 2-year stint. Baltimore, he finished with 67 catches, 800 yards, 5 tuds, and his last year in Baltimore, 73 catches, 811 yards, and 2 tuds.
Well, so most of his career was spent with John Elway, a really good quarterback. You look down the list a little bit further, Rob Gronkowski. Who did he spend all of his career with? Tom freaking Brady. And actually looking at his career...
See, that might be my GOAT. If I was to pick like the one that when I watched it, that's the dude that I identify at the position... It might be Gronk for me.
But he only played 11 years total in the league, and his numbers are he had so many touchdowns because he was with Tom Brady.
Yeah, but how? Yeah, okay, and that's fine. I think we all acknowledge the quarterback is a massive part of this conversation. But how many times did you watch Brady throw a ball to him, and you went, "Holy hell, he came down with that! Holy hell, he held on to that ball after that hit." That dude played with a robot arm the last 4 years of his career. His entire arm was all black. It had big brace on it and all. When I watched him, he made plays. Certainly Brady giving him those passes helps, but I watched that guy catch passes where I was like, damn. And he came up big in moments, man. The Super Bowl against the Rams, AFC title games, that guy was about as money as it can be. Now, Kelsey also, to his credit, Baltimore, what he did to Baltimore last week or 2 weeks ago in the first half, my God, he shredded them. And Baltimore is geared defensively to be good against those guys. They have Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen, that. Those linebackers are athletic and fast. It's why they put the Niners in hell. And he went out there and shredded them in the first half. Just made incredible catches. Kyle Hamilton was guarding him. It didn't matter. Hamilton has shut down everybody. And then Kelsey comes in and catching a tud. Catching a nice over-the-middle pass that's actually a better catch than it is a throw. And so it's just examining all this stuff is very interesting. And I think it's great humility. But I was a little surprised Gronk is even that guy's the best. I'm like, I don't know, Gronk. you're pretty damn good yourself.
Well, it is interesting to hear from them kind of what they find the roundabout way, or I guess the overall way, I should say, to look at how good a tight end is for their career, because we like to see the offense.
Yep.
We just look at those stats. You brought it up a little bit a couple of minutes ago, but the blocking is really huge for tight ends, but us as sports fans just don't think of that very often because, we have all those guys on our fantasy team. So we're only looking at how many catches they have. But yeah, overall, yeah, you got to be a great blocker. So I guess the amazing blocking skills plus all of those stats equal the best tight end of all time. You can't take away the blocking from that.
If I give you one game, so we have this game Sunday, Super Bowl, what tight end are you picking for your team?
Of all time? Any era?
For you, any tight end. I say you get to pick any tight end. In eras of what you watched, obviously you go to 1950. It's like, I don't know.
I'm going to go Mike Ditka.
Yeah, Mike Ditka.
I don't remember him.
But give me, who would you pick? Would you pick Kelsey?
I want to say yes, but I feel like that's a little bit of recency bias because 3 years ago, Gronk was the end-all be-all for the tight end position. Of course, Kelsey was really good, but then Kelsey caught a lot of balls with Alex Smith as his quarterback too. So,
yeah, Kelsey's been awesome his whole career, man.
Damn, that's a hard question.
I don't think there's a wrong choice here. It's just, I guess, a preference and how you felt watching their impact in the game, in their careers.
I'm going to go Gronk. For what you just said, the feeling that I get and the feeling that I remember watching like games during that crazy run for the Patriots,
sure,
and just getting so mad about. No, I got to go Gronk.
We have a lot to get into. College football wrapped up all their signing day stuff. Oregon coming out on top. Oregon State, interesting spot that they're in, and I got audio from their head coach Trent Bray that we're going to get to today. We got a couple more Super Bowl things we want to get to, a couple pieces of audio from their media days. NBA trade deadline day is here. It's today. Will the Blazers make a move? It's a fun anniversary for the team for this reason as well. Dirt and Sprague, a whole lot more to get into on 1080 The Fan. Oregon and Oregon State. Dare I say where UCLA is currently ranked in the recruiting rankings? Oh, I don't know, man.
Big news out of their program. Not.
You know, I keep hearing this. Chip. We talked about Chip being interviewed for the Seahawk gig. As Ryan Grubb yesterday announces, "I'm here, Alabama, and I'm here to stay." If Chip is going to get the Seahawk job, I don't know where Seahawk fan would be at on that. I feel like they talk themselves into it because they're so happy about McDonald, and maybe Chip would be good at it. I think if Chip is just worried about the football X's and O's stuff, he's fine. His offense is fine. It can work. Maybe this is the restart he needs. What I've heard, though, in the last couple of days, and I find it interesting, it's an awful situation for UCLA, the players, Chip, everybody. Excuse me? Did Chip Kelly agree to an extension? Is Chip Kelly still currently being paid by UCLA?
Just awful. Terrible.
Why is this awful for him? He seems like he's the bad guy here. Am I wrong?
Aren't they kind of hanging him out to dry?
How are they hanging out to dry? They kept him.
But looking at this whole situation and saying, "Oh, things aren't going well," yet not really mentioning or looking at the fact that
look
he
in the
decided
mirror.
extension.
Yeah, look in the mirror and ask yourself again: why are things not going well? Is UCLA ran well? Probably not. You also signed 2 contract extensions with them. What are we complaining about? If it's so bad, why did you sign to stay there?
That's fair.
If it's so bad, why are you still there?
Oh, we know the answer to that, though. Come on.
No, please enlighten me.
Negotiating power, leverage. He's now going to
Leverage from who?
From whoever he wants to go get employed by next. He's now going to get
What leverage does he have on the Seahawks?
the paycheck that he's getting. He's like, hey, so if they want him, which they're
They're certainly interested.
their choice essentially of one of like 3 guys. It's up to them, but.
Right.
There's going to be pay negotiations involved in that, and I wouldn't be surprised if Chip is saying, hey, this salary in college, I think that kind of tells you this is what I'm worth here as an offensive coordinator in the NFL compared to other guys. It might get him an extra $1 or $2.
Leverage is the most overrated term I think we used in the media. I just don't understand what leverage he would be having on the Seahawk. He needs the job more than the Seahawks need him.
I guess that's fair.
He's a current college coach gallivanting around America begging for jobs to not be the coach, but technically is still today the coach.
Well, maybe he just needs that higher salary guarantee from UCLA so he can do what you're saying, gallivanting around looking for jobs.
I understand the financials of this, like doesn't want to leave the money, Sprague. Yeah, I get it. It's also what he's doing to the players in that program is very unfair.
Well, the entire
Hey guys, I don't want to be here. I'm gonna the landscape of college football.
Yeah, every team has dealt with it to some aspect this offseason.
Who decided to go to UCLA?
I'm not. I'm disagreeing with you.
I'm kind of puzzled by that response. I've seen that. I've heard it.
Okay.
It's really unfair to Chip. What part? Being at UCLA where he agreed on a contract to be the head coach?
I think it's unfair.
Just leave.
It's unfair to blame the entirety of their lack of success on him. Does he recruit? No, and I think that's a big part of it. But
I think there's a lot of little elements around it, Schultze, that's not his fault. But we also know and we see it with our eyes how important college football coach is. And if you don't recruit and you don't resonate with fans like at all, to the point where they're paying an airplane to fly over your stadium that says fire you, you don't interact with the media and players that like they have no connection to you. They commit to you and then they get into the portal because they can't trust you. Bad AD or bad athletic department, sure. A lot of that is Chip Kelly stuff.
The university would be in a really bad spot right now if Chip Kelly left because you missed out.
They are in a bad Schultze. They're not in a good spot, and they have Chip Kelly.
Even worse than they would be because then they'd be without a head coach. Yeah,
you can be in a worse spot than recruiting worse than South Alabama.
Yeah, they're terrible at recruiting. They've been anemic the last 2 seasons. I understand, but trying to search for a head coach of the remnants that are left right now in the college football coaching carousel, good effing luck. I mean, you should have had Jonathan Smith. You should have made this move back
Certainly
in
a good point
November.
there, yeah.
I mean, the rumors about Chip Kelly
They
being
beat
fired,
USC, Schulte, and they kept him because of that.
Exactly.
It was like, oh, that's the only. I always hate that. And Purdy's going to get this on Sunday. I have texts that could expose a lot, and I've been honest about it. Purdy's made me do this. I'm in, I'm out. I'm in, I'm like, If he plays poorly, I'm not going to feel great. But I love the conclusion that if he wins, he's this in the NFL. If he loses, there you go. He's not a franchise guy like at all. That's existing for a lot of people going into Sunday. And that's what UCLA's philosophy was. Oh, we're going to fire this guy. Wait, he did what against USC? Won in blowout fashion? Let's keep him.
Well, that's why you make the decision before the game. You don't say it's based on the outcome of one game because
it's a ridiculous thing to do.
Yeah.
We talked about this with the Bears, and like if Fields wins, do they keep him? I'm like, you're basing everything that you're doing with the number one pick in the draft with one of the best prospects ever. You're basing it on he had a good 2-week sample size. That seems negligent. Does it not?
No, the whole hype of him leading into this season was because he had a decent year last year. So, and they weren't just looking at 2 games. Yeah, I don't like how
he's been a disappointment at UCLA.
Chip?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's been
I was looking at Fields. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, saying Fields last year, we were looking at his, he's going to be good because he was decent last year, and now a 2-game stretch makes them think, oh, he's going to be fine going forward. But no, Chip hasn't shown any level of success at UCLA minus like a 2-game stint. So.
From one bad program with a coach who doesn't want to be there but is still there somehow, to a program that has a coach that wants to be there and is building up a juggernaut. We kick off the second hour. Holy hell, Oregon. Hour 2, Dirt and Sprague on the Fan. Portland sports leader 1080 The Fan, the Odyssey app, 99.5 HD2, and of course YouTube, youtube.com/1080 The Fan. Quick reminder for you. You can reach us at the Vancouver Ford text line, 503-864-6326. An hour from right now, we'll be talking to Ken Barkley of You Better You Bet. We'll get all his Super Bowl picks. Ken Barkley doesn't shot. He comes across to me as somebody not interested at all in like, hey, over under 7 times they show Taylor Swift. He doesn't strike me as a guy that gambles on those things. I think he goes into prop bets, totals, sides, all that. I don't think he's diving in. So we'll talk with Ken Barkley about that. We will dive into the NBA trade deadline. Oh yes, it's been active. Xavier Tillman.
The big name traded.
If Xavier Tillman doesn't move your needle, you don't belong in the needle-moving department.
I mean, it's a good little pickup for the Celtics. They definitely needed an acquisition. I'm looking at the Knicks today to see if they do stuff, but we'll get into that.
Security for the bigs. Let's go.
There's a couple pieces. I mean, DeJounte Murray, I think he's going to be on the move from Atlanta.
You think he's going to be on the move?
Atlanta is just, they're not doing anything, and there are some assets out there that I feel like would be more attractive to them. To get him, it was like 2 firsts and a pick swap that hasn't even come through yet. So Atlanta, to get more assets for DeJounte Murray back, that would definitely help them offset that.
Who is the number 1 recruiting team in the Big Ten, the B1G, Schultze?
My Duckies, right?
Number 1.
Yes.
They've
such a good feeling.
I was confused on this because I'm on 24/7's website. I believe the kid they just snagged from Idaho is it Gatlin Bear?
Yes, Gatlin Bear.
And then they also have Elijah Rushing. I thought both of them were 5 stars, correct? I've seen 24/7 stuff calling them 5 stars.
I thought so.
On the website, in the ranking for 2024, it says 0 5 stars. So I was kind of confused by that.
Maybe Gatlin's a 4-star?
Yeah, maybe I got that information incorrect. The text police are always welcome to correct us on that stuff. We always appreciate that. But Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks, number 1 in the Big Ten, waltzing right in there and overtaking Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, USC. I know Nebraska with rules trying to turn that around, and he's certainly recruiting at a better level. Washington, unfortunately, suffered, the most unfortunate circumstance of all with getting to a title game and then losing so much. But Oregon's number 1 in the B1G, walking in and number 1 in recruiting. When you look further, Tom Luganville had this at ESPN. School with the most ESPN 300 recruits. Georgia, 21. Alabama, 18. Oregon, number 3 in all of the land with 17. Top 10 class, Georgia, Bama, Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, Miami, LSU, Oklahoma, Auburn, and Florida. Now, the class rankings can vary from website to website.
Of course.
But Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia, and Bama are like the consensus top 4 by almost every metric. Where they rank, that's subjective, I guess. But Oregon doing something. I know some people out there, Dan Lanning hasn't beaten Washington. Dan Lanning hasn't won a Pac-12 title. The thing we know about college football, though, is Jimmy's Joes. Jimmy's Joes. Dan Lanning will handle the X's and O's, but you need to give him the Jimmys and the Joes. And Oregon certainly is doing this, and they're doing it, Schultze, on a level that kind of suggests national championship, not insane thought for them, given the talent build that they've had with Dan Lanning in just, 2.5, 3 years?
Yeah, I feel like the Big Ten's going to be set up for success for the Oregon Ducks because their high-flying offense to this point is more exciting than everybody but maybe like an Ohio State on a week-to-week basis. When Michigan had J.J. McCarthy throw the ball, they could move it, but it's now going to be Oregon and personally, in my opinion, everybody else below them on an offensive tier. When you've got 4- and 5-star wide receivers coming into the program, that's never happened before.
No.
And finally, with the level that we've all been hoping that Chip could get us to, but didn't want to recruit, Helfrich just left the cupboard empty, and then you kind of get screwed over by 2 coaches. Now, in the Big Ten, it's the perfect time for all of the chips kind of to be on the table for them, but not only their young guys, all the transfers that they got to shore up the defensive side of the ball. They got so many secondary guys to plug the holes. I mean, you loved getting Kyrie Jackson last year. You loved other guys coming in and making a huge impact, but then half those guys ended up leaving after a season. What does Dan Lanning do? Come right in and uses this move to the Big 12 and the Ducks' success in the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Big 10.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. That is a total Freudian slip.
It's not a big deal. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, Big 10. But using the success from the last 2 years as well and kind of just saying, hey, this is where we're at. We're going to rule this next conference. And these kids believe him.
Well, the other part of this, I mean, we know what they did at quarterback. Dylan Gabriel, Dante Moore, Luke Moga is still, they just brought him in. Then you add Elijah Rushing, Aiden Breland, Jeremiah McClellan was a flip from Ohio State on signing day in December. I remember that one. You get the number 1 JUCO DB in the country. You add Evan Stewart, a former 5-star recruit from Texas A&M, an elite wide receiver. You've got Jamari Caldwell from Houston. You bring in Jabbar Muhammad from Washington. Interesting little note of the teams in the title game in the playoff. 82% were high school recruits. And I've said this, high school recruiting in bulk is going to be bigger than the portal. But I think the portal, and I think you can make an okay argument that's here now. The portal, even though that's 18% by math, I think you can make a real argument the portal is just as important, right? What is Washington? They had all those guys that were recruited years ago. Roma Dunze, Braylon Trice, like these are guys that experienced multiple coaches in their careers at Washington, right? Good players, stout studs. What was the difference for them? They got elevated by transfer quarterback. Come on down. That's one player compared to the other players that were high school recruits. So yes, the percentages in high school, and it is important. But I also think the way the portal is operating, what's Oregon next year if they don't have Dylan Gabriel?
Of course.
If this is just Dante Moore and some guys you've never seen, I don't know where the confidence is. Maybe it's high because Will Stein's offense looked great this year. And Bo Nix for 2 years said, look at this system, look at the talent. We can build this. We can be okay. But Dylan Gabriel was awesome at Oklahoma. Him coming to Eugene kind of sets it even higher in terms of what they could potentially accomplish. So the juggernaut that they're building down there in Eugene, you don't have to like that team. A lot of you do, though, and I don't know how you're not through the moon because, man, in that sport specifically, it's only about talent acquisition. Yeah. It is only about being elite at this particular thing. When you recruit at this level, the history of the sport suggests you are in it with all these other big boys. Now, can you beat Georgia this year? I think most people would say not. No, but we'll see. Georgia's bringing back a lot of players. Ohio State, tons of players. I think that's a kind of coin flip game when they play at Autzen. Alabama, we'll see what DeBoer does, how he salvages what they have. They have a lot of players. They got 5 stars in this class. We'll see what DeBoer is. And then any other program you would circle, Florida State, Michigan with Sharon Moore, maybe LSU this year. Maybe their defense gets improved, but they're having to replace their quarterback. I don't know who it is, but whoever that is, you are putting Oregon in that conversation. That's what Dan Lanning's doing. Whether he wins the title, you can have the opinion he won't or he will, but right now, the recruiting profile, the talent profile of that program says top end of college football, the very top end of college football. And he's done a remarkable job of building that thing up even higher than the guy built it before him.
I do think that you bring up the perfect way to make this point, and that's the quarterback position. Can you name another school that's gotten two? And I know this whole transfer portal thing, the NIL world, this is very new. We're looking at 5 years or less of this, but has any school in that time gotten two of the top transfer quarterbacks in one go? I can't think of any. And look at what Ohio State had to settle for this year. Kansas State's Will Howard.
Oh, I see. I will push back on that.
Okay.
I think Will Howard was a great pickup. I wouldn't for me, I wouldn't, Schultze, say settle.
In a vacuum,
I think
yes.
Will Howard was being coveted by Lincoln Riley.
Okay, in a vacuum, yes, but compared to Dylan Gabriel and Dante Moore, as far as the profile of the schools that you're looking at, Oregon is the lead. They're tops.
Getting both of them, to your point, is huge. Dante has, I think, a lot of kind of turning the career around because it was such a bad start at UCLA.
That was a bad fit.
Well, yeah, it was.
He chose to say, you know what, I'm not going to start in my first year. Now he's thankfully okay with that, and that actually helps Oregon's future because it would probably just have been Dante Moore last year waiting for Bo Nix if he decided to come here, and now we'd have just Dante Moore as our quarterback instead of Dylan Gabriel.
I think throwing pick sixes in multiple games does that to a guy. He says, well, maybe I'm not ready to start yet. Maybe I'll sit on the bench and wait it out behind this guy, and Dante can certainly turn the career around. But the only disagreement I'd have is Will Howard. If Lincoln Riley wants that guy, I want that guy. I think that guy is capable. When you have 3 Heisman Trophy winners under your belt, I know his program and the down year and whatnot. I'm still going to trust his evaluation at the position. Massive pickup for Ohio State. The Ohio State-Oregon battle this year at Autzen, I'd have to go look. I think Georgia plays Texas. I'd have to go look at the schedule. Certainly in the running for the biggest game. And Ohio State-Michigan is its own entity. But, man, Ohio State at Autzen, I think that's October, right? Early October, mid-October, somewhere around there. God, what a game that's going to be. But Oregon is, man, they've turned it up. They've turned the heat up. Top 3 recruiting class, top 4 according to ESPN, number 1, and they're sitting there with all of these prospects coming in, feeling like they can build off what they did last year. And last year, they got to the Pac-12 title game. We've got a lot to get into. I want to go to the other team in the state, Oregon State, because the ranking wasn't impressive, but the coach, interesting comments the coach had yesterday. So we'll get to that coming up next. Dirt and Sprague on the Fan. 721 AM. Dirt and Sprague on the AM dial. Also, youtube.com/1080 The Fan.
You can see our beautiful faces.
Well, there's a reason we're on YouTube and not television.
Oh, you're beautiful. I've seen some uglies on national TV, not even just local TV, but natty.
I'd actually be curious. You probably wouldn't want to participate in the game, but rank the ugliest people on TV.
Oh, I'd make that.
Who's your top 5 ugliest people you see on TV? That'd be a fun game to play.
But really good, but never mind. It's like, I love to listen to him, but he's ugly.
Sometimes people are ugly and you just want to keep staring at them, you know?
It's like the train wreck that you can't look away from.
What's that movie? What's the movie? Listeners might have to help if you can't identify. The movie with Cher, and her son has like the elongated head. That's
that was based on a true story.
yeah, it was.
I just looked up
Rocky?
the name of this. Yes, Rocky.
But
Yes.
it's like I don't think it's just called Rocky because I don't think we have 2 Rockies.
That's the name of the kid.
Yeah, I think that's the name of the kid.
The name is Mask. Eric Stoltz
Mask. Yes,
played it was a character based on a real kid named Rocky who had, I'm trying to find.
Good little movie, that Rocky.
Cranial diaphyseal dysplasia.
Okay, yeah. You're using terms I don't understand.
I'm just trying to read what Wikipedia says.
We, however, are on YouTube, no matter how ugly or beautiful you think we are. And most people probably say ugly. But interesting point I want to read at the Vancouver Ford text line, 503-864-6326. They treat you right before, during, and after the sale. You can visit them, of course, at VancouverFord.com. Thank you. The text, please. The Mask. Yes, the Mask. I saw that at a young age, and I was like, whoa, that movie got me. I sat down and watched it. Funny, somebody says, if only Phil Knight went to Oregon State, in talking about the Dan Lanning recruiting success that the Oregon has had so far. Somebody else asking, how much of this is Lanning being a great recruiter versus the money of Oregon and the Nike NIL machine? In other words, would most competent recruiters be having similar success at Oregon? Here's the thing. I'm trying to find it now, saying this is the worst radio to say. It's like, I saw this, but I can't tell you who had it. And I did see a ranking last night. I was doing some recruiting stuff and reading about things, and I saw a ranking of NIL spending. Now, Nike, I think, has been I think they've been at the forefront of creativity with some of this stuff. Like Kayvon Thibodeau having, his, what do they call, what is the Nike Oregon collective? Is it the Dream?
It's like the quack.
Dream Street.
Thank you, Dream Street.
Blanking on it. Dream Street's an interesting thing that they've established with that. The ranking I saw yesterday did not have Oregon in the top 6 of spending on NIL money. Now, how true, I don't know, but the one I saw, because I was wondering, hey, I know Oregon NIL, it's like, yo, you can offer these kids money now. Great opportunity for them given their booster. I did not see Oregon in the top 6 of the ranking that I saw. So I think it's okay to say, like, that helps. I also think, like, Mario Cristobal was there, 3 years ago?
Yeah, it wasn't that long.
His class wasn't top 3. And, Lanning going into the Big Ten, like, you're recruiting against Ohio State. And I know they haven't had a season, an entire season yet in that conference, but you are a Big Ten recruiter now, and you have been for some time. You were number 1. So, yeah, NIL collective, that's the thing about this, how much of it is the coach versus the NIL. Collectives are massive. You have to have your S together. But is it not surprising to find that Missouri is landing studs? Are people ready for Missouri to be in a conversation? Because they might be. They had a great year last year. They won their bowl game. And if you go look at some of the portal and recruiting rankings, Missouri shot up. Louisville's been in this. Like, Louisville, I can't believe I'm saying that. Louisville has their S together. Some of this isn't just about how much money do you have. Texas A&M's got all the money in the world. They went and bought an entire recruiting class. Those kids were gone. Like, a year later, they're gone. I think it's about fit, culture, certainly the coaching staff. I mean, Jabbar Muhammad, this was so shocking to me of like how basic some of this seems. If I told any one of you out there you're recruiting a high school player or a portal player, wouldn't your natural reaction kind of be cool? I'm going to keep in contact with them as often as I'm permitted. Hey, how's your day? Just want to reach out, man. We really value you. You know, like just a standard help. Jabbar Muhammad was like, I'd never had that before. Like, what?
These younger head coaches that know how to connect with this, current 20, 25-year-old generation. Because now you're seeing kids play till they're 26. So you've got to garner kids from 16 to like 25. Lanning is obviously way better than Mario at that, way better than Willie Taggart was at that. Yes, the money's there, but the money's there for so many other programs. I'm sick of hearing like, well, Oregon's only a good recruiter because of the money. Guess what? All the facilities now are getting close to even. You've got to have that personality in there that connects. And Drinkwitz at Missouri's a great example. He's like just turned 40, and he knows how to connect with young guys.
Lane is doing a really good job at Ole Miss when many people didn't think Lane Kiffin, how is he going to do? He got fired on the tarmac. I think both things are true, and I don't think it has to be some like grandiose offensive thing that Oregon fan hears, that to say Phil Knight and Nike have been massive.
Well, of course.
But to that original text, it is a part of it. Also, Lanning seems to be pretty good. You don't have to like Oregon. You can say Lanning's not going to win a national championship all you want. I think what you would have to admit is you'd love to have him as your recruiting coach. You'd love to have that because, man, he's obsessed. We got to cut from Sark. Did we have this on the system, Schulte? Do we have it up here on the board?
Yeah, I got it.
The Sark one? Okay. This was Steve Sarkisian. Texas is also in this kind of conversation. They get to the playoff. They lose to Washington. Yes, they've lost some top receivers. They've also brought in some killers at that spot to fill those voids. And Quinn Ewers is returning. Here was Steve Sarkisian, Schulte. If you want to hit this, Steve Sarkisian yesterday of just where he's at in his life at that program.
I came here to win a championship, and then if I can get one, I want to get two. And I'm borderline obsessed with it at this point. I know what it tasted like last year. I know how close we were, and I couldn't wait to get back. And hopefully that's what our team really starts to exude, is this obsession with being the best. Because we have a locker room full of young men that are driven, that are focused, that want to be the best.
I mean, that's what it is. Who is the most obsessed? Lanning is sick over this stuff. Eli Drinkwitz is showing sick over this stuff. Sarkisian, everybody laughed at Sark. Sark is Latin for 7-5 was our old joke. I liked it. I thought, this guy's learned a lot. He's gone through some trials and tribulations. I liked it. As long as Texas's status, their elite backers would just stay the hell out of it and give this guy some time to build, he gets to the playoff. It matters. Who is doing it does matter. No matter what you do have financially, it matters a great deal. And I'm curious to see that battle. Sark Lanning. Sark just got to the playoff. Lanning hasn't been there yet. Lanning hasn't beaten his a big rival. He hasn't beaten Washington yet. These are things he is moving to try to do. And so now that Saban's gone, yes, Kirby Smart still exists. Georgia's still Georgia. But Ryan Day, we saw that, $14 million NIL collective. They're doing a hell of a job. They just can't beat Michigan. Ryan Day, Brian Kelly at LSU, kind of a down year for them, looking to turn it around. Let's not forget about old Hugh Freeze at Auburn. Now you got Lanning in Eugene. We'll see what Jedd Fisch can do at Washington. Sarkisian got to a playoff last year at Texas. It's a fun world to watch these battles go back and forth with all of these coaches who are just hungry. And I know Kirby Smart's there and he's got two of these. But now that Saban's gone, I think there's some dudes around college football saying, oh, there's an opening here. There's an opening and we're going to step into that void. And we'll see what Kalen DeBoer can steady the waters and right the ship and keep it going for Bama. But I think there's a lot of coaches in similar nature all across the country saying, the time is now. Let's just go do this. And you're seeing it in Eugene. You're seeing it at Columbus. You're seeing it in Austin. All of these coaches jumping on it. Norvell at Florida State, give him his flowers. You know who's not? Dabo. Clemson and Dabo still don't want anything to do with the portal, and I find that a very interesting decision.
I do enjoy watching the younger guys that want to connect with players succeed over the old school, just red ass. I'm sick of the Jimbos. I'm sick of the Dabos of the world. And maybe that's why I like Nick Saban now, because he's like, you know what? I know that I've got to hang it up. I just don't.
He evolved with it. He is a red ass, but Nick Saban evolved with it.
But he
complained
admitted
about it. Everything Nick Saban did, Schultz, he complained about it, and then he did it and evolved with it. Oregon's running too fast. We're going to get kids hurt. Like 3 years later, running up-tempo offense. This portal, be careful. And I think he was more warning, like, you want to allow us this kind of freedom? Okay, don't say I didn't warn you.
But the ultimate chameleon had 12 players come to him looking for more NIL money, and that was like one of the breaking points for him. He's obviously just
for sure.
He's like, I don't have the energy for this anymore. I put it all in, but it's just not there. But when I got guys coming to me asking for money, no, it is the young guy that can connect with players now, and I like that. That's going to be more successful as a coach.
Let's get to Oregon State. We'll dive back into some Super Bowl stuff. Ken Barkley at 8. Trent Bray said this about their program. We'll get to it next on The Fan.
This is a Super Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update is brought to you by LaRogue Brothers Jewelers. Guys, score big with extra savings before the big game at LaRogue's this Sunday from 11 to 3, LaRogue.com. First on The Fan, a few deals already being made before the NBA trade deadline at noon today. The Celtics acquiring forward Xavier Tillman from the Grizzlies for a couple second-round picks. Elsewhere, the Minnesota Timberwolves slipping guard Shake Milton, Troy Brown Jr., and a 2030 second-round pick to the Pistons for guard Monte Morris. In a separate deal, Detroit grabbed forward Simone Fontecchio from the Utah Jazz for a 2024 second-round pick. The Trailblazers beginning a 7-game homestand tonight as the league worst Pistons visit Moda Center. Detroit a 5.5-point favorite. Tip-off set for 7 p.m. on Root Sports. On the college hardwood, the Portland Pilots getting smacked 96-64 by Gonzaga last night. Lots of action tonight, though. The Ducks trying to hang on to second place in the Pac-12. They host the Washington Huskies. Oregon a 7.5-point favorite. Coverage getting going right here on The Fan at 6:30. You can also watch tip-off at 7 p.m. on FS1. And the Beavers hosting the Washington State Cougars. They're an 8.5-point underdog, though. Tip-off for that is also at 7 p.m. on Pac-12 Network. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schultze from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Get in the game at Spirit Mountain Casino. Watch and wager on all the pro football playoff action. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
Live, local, and free. No subscription required. Portland's sports leader is 1080 The Fan.
Swag back with you from my friends at Les Schwab Tires. Nobody knows the unique challenges of winter
80 The Fan.
We have a lot to get into today. I want to get to Oregon State. My Beavs in Corvallis. Trent Bray, the new head coach. Jonathan Smith, of course, dropping things off at a Goodwill and then bouncing to East Lansing. Good luck to him. He's near the bottom of those recruiting rankings in that conference, so God bless him. Oregon State came in number 2 in the Pac-12 recruiting rankings. Can you believe this, Schulte? Number 2.
That's awesome. Out of 2 schools?
Out of 2, yes. To be fair, by the ranking metrics, Washington State out-recruited Oregon State. Come on, really?
Sorry, dude.
Really?
You said
You're getting offended by people saying, Nike helps you. Get out of here. And you just drubbed my team and then hit me with the loser game show sound?
Just the way that you set it up, it left the door open for it, brother.
You're a jerk.
I love you. Yes, I am. I will take any chance to lord over Beaver fan in this instance. I apologize, but at the same time,
that's okay.
F you.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens in September when you come screaming into Reser Stadium.
Oh, the brand new Reser Stadium.
Ben Goldbranson's got a surprise for you.
3 picks?
Top 2 in the recruiting class rankings. Just suck on that one, Schultze. Trent Bray, though, he came up here yesterday to Portland. They do the dinner and the schmoozing and the building of excitement about the program. And with all the uncertainty about their future right now, it's a Mountain West-esque school who's hoping that the landscape continues to change and destroy itself and the ecosystem opens itself up and here comes the Beaver. He's welcome back into the major level of college football. I'm rooting like hell for this guy. I'm just being open and honest, rooting like hell for Trent Bray and actually the whole staff because it's such a Oregon State-centric staff. Keith Hayward, Ryan Gunderson, Kyle DeVan, these guys are loaded with Oregon State experience, former players. And Trent Bray yesterday was talking to KEZI 9 down in Eugene, and this is what he had to say about how he views Oregon State if they lost some of these players when Jonathan Smith left. Obviously, that's natural, right? You get some decommitments. Hey, I was committed to the coach more than the program. And Trent Bray was asked about losing out on guys in the recruiting cycle once Jonathan Smith left. Here's what he had to say.
You never worry about the guys you don't get. High school guys, I understood that was going to happen. Also a learning lesson from when we first got here, not being stuck to the old staff's guys, because they just were going to run different stuff. We're going to be a different system, so they might not fit this system. So we looked at the guys that were committed and the guys that fit our system, and we feel we kept the ones we wanted to and got guys to add to it that fit what we do.
So, yeah, recruiting ranking-wise, not great, Bob. But I've always believed, and I think most people, even if you don't root for Oregon State, the thing about Oregon State is you can't really look at that ranking and determine they're going to be X, Y, and Z. Certainly the profile of the recruiting suggests they should be. But how many years and experience have we seen in Corvallis with a couple coaches that say, outperform their talent profile? It's happened. It happens quite a bit, actually. He also had a comment. I think Nick Daschle had this at Oregon Live, and I'm sure he's got great articles up there at O-Live. I saw quote something to the effect of, this staff is about recruiting. I'm summing it up, but it kind of took a shot at the previous staff of not the heaviest of recruiters and how him building this team was all about getting not only good coaches, but getting coaches that are younger and hungry and driven by recruiting. Because even if they'll never get to the level of some of the schools we've already talked about, Schultze, what you can do is you can hit the JUCO route. You can run good systems offensively and defensively and maybe do better in the portal than people think you can. And oh, by the way, if they can take care of their schedule and be the better team of all those Mountain West teams they play and finish with a 10-2 record, that establishes consistency of what they've been doing, and it makes you feel like you don't fall off as much. There are certainly going to be things about the way they play that are going to be different, and I think a little less than, but they've got enough talent this year to keep the ship going, and then you got to build on that with your new staff. So a little, not eye-opening, but Bray kind of just saying, yeah, I built a staff that cares about recruiting a little more because
Yeah.
he was a part of the previous one, and the previous one never recruited very highly.
And they still were able to get really good players into the program. I mean, even without that recruiting that Trent Bray's talking about, DJ Uiagalelei transferred over. So they had success doing that, and you like to see Trent Bray basically taking the only route of success that the Beavers can have at this point. And I'm not trying to knock anybody. I'm trying to say that this is what the Beavers are left with, and it sounds like
They were dealt a tough hand, for sure.
And it sounds like Scott Barnes made the right hire for a guy that is solely focused on recruiting in this current world, but really finding those undervalued recruits, those 2 and 3 stars that maybe, and yes, I sound like I'm doing like Moneyball talk for the Oakland A's right now back in the early 2000s, but unfortunately.
No, they are. They've always kind of been that, though. They have to find the diamonds in the rough, right? And it's Barnes.
And even more so now.
Bray may pay off for Barnes in that regard. I also would make an argument, and I think I did. It ain't like he had it was him or Paul Christ.
Mm-hmm.
If memory serves, and I'd rather have the guy who's younger and has been there the last.
I think Bronco Mendenhall was kind of brought
Mendenhall,
up
he's kind of been tied to Oregon
job.
State because of his experience and his ties to the program. But
Another older guy, though.
I kind of felt like that was not really like, I think it was like, this is the easiest choice to make is Trent Bray. I don't know what Bray's going to be as the head coach, but so far, like he's hitting on you know what, we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Because you lose your coach the way that they lost their coach, and you find all this stuff at Goodwill. It's tough. That's a tough spot to be in, and the recruiting rankings aren't going to show it in any way because, again, they're second in the Pac-2 behind Washington State in that regard. But, given a bit of a tough hand, now it's about, okay, the guys you do have, the experience you do have, Josh Gray's returning, Damian Martinez, you have a quarterback with experience. How can you build on that now? Go into spring ball, establish what your systems are, how your offense is going to run now that you have a new OC, a new vision, and you got to build on it that way. It's at least a guy that is telling me he gives a damn about recruiting versus the last guy I think cared, but kind of had enough of the coaching staff to say, I can get a 2-3-star offensive lineman and it won't matter because Jim Mahalichik can turn him into an all-conference beast on the offensive line.
Well, just from that cut, I think you can gather that Trent Bray is the guy to lead the Beavers through probably the next 2-3 seasons, as you said, of questionable conference homes, and to the point where stuff will open back up and really treading water is the most important thing for the Beavers at this point, but it sounds like they're attacking it the right way.
We got a trade in the NBA. We'll get to some of that. The trade deadline's around the corner. It's the anniversary of this audio cut. We'll tell you what that is. And Ken Barkley at 8 a.m. Dirt and Sprague back with more on 1080 The Fan.
Who's stinking it up?
Do not go in there.
It's time for Who's Stinking It Up, a sports lowlight that's ripped
Who got
from
ejected?
the headlines.
We couldn't do diddly poo.
Brought to you by Three Mountains Plumbing. Schedule your appointment online at threemountainsplumbing.com.
Tries to answer. Duran with the rebound. Yeah, he got hit on that 3 attempt. Duran, 20 points and 15 rebounds. We got a whistle here. And a technical foul. Is that Kevin Herter? He's been ejected.
Yeah, there's a Sacramento Kings TV as I had my mic on trying to ask Schulte a question. I missed this. Kevin Herter got ejected. I did see they lost at home to the Pistons.
It got bad at the end. It was pretty chippy.
The lowly
hilarious.
Pistons?
7th win of the year.
Kings, we'll see if the Kings make a deal because they're struggling. Who's stinking it up? The Kings, brought to you by Three Mountains Plumbing. Make plumbing and electrical services delightful. Get your time back. Let the pros tackle those projects you need completed. Schedule an appointment online. Three Mountains Plumbing. That's threemountainsplumbing.com. early expectation for this year's Civil War? What's your expectation? It's in Corvallis. We are glad, I guess, that they got the game back. I still argue it doesn't matter to me much because, like, they're in different conferences now, and there are
real implications.
Yeah, it just there's implications, I guess, in the in-state bragging stuff. Not that like.
Yeah, real implications.
Like one of my better friends is an Oregon Duck alum. He is like a sicko for Oregon Duck football. It's probably the only thing in sports he truly cares about is Oregon Duck football.
Okay.
Not basketball. Not anything in Major League Baseball or the NFL, though he calls himself a Cowboy fan. It's just Oregon football. The bragging rights are there. I watched the game where Oregon State came back at his house. Yeah, you get a couple jokes in, but largely it's like not really that big of a deal. I guess I'm glad it's back, but yeah, the implications are not quite what they were. What's your early expectation for it? That was a listener thought at the Vancouver 4 text line.
I'm excited to see how both schools respond to the adversity and kind of the changing of, the old game to the new game now. But I think it'll still hold some meaning. And I do think a lot of players that are still on both rosters have played in it before. So maybe if there's no movement on the conference side of things for Oregon State, if they don't get back into like the Big 12 or another big Power 5 conference, maybe the feeling on the game will start to subside a little bit and nobody will care as much.
Yeah, if that landscape don't change in the next 2 years, that you could just do away with that game, and to me emotionally it wouldn't matter. I'll say I expect Oregon to come in as a pretty decent favorite. I'm going to set that line at over a touchdown.
Oh, I'd say probably 2.
That wouldn't shock. I mean, we've seen it before, but I have an expectation of I've heard it loud in there. I've heard them boo Oregon. I'm hoping it's a boo we've never heard before.
Well, that's the thing. It's
a level of like, oh, F you truly when you come into our building in September.
It's the new Reser Stadium, and that's something that Oregon hasn't experienced yet. So it sucks because, as you said,
it's the conference ditching stuff that I would say the booing should be the loudest it's ever been.
That's fair, but to try and keep the implication of the game there, you do want your fans to be booing the hell out of Oregon fans. You want that aspect there.
Oh, yeah. That's what makes it, hostile environment. Yeah. Let's keep moving away from that and go into neutral site places for these football games. Why have it at the stadiums of these teams with that kind of atmosphere? Somebody says bees need to bust out duck hunting camp uniforms.
See, that's awesome. Or that. Just play.
I love that.
Play duck hunt up
quack,
on
quack.
the big screen.
Yeah, quack quack.
Yeah, quack quack quack. Bing bing. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And then instead of the dog, you morph a beaver. And
see,
it's
that's
just like
perfect.
A beaver holding up a dead duck. Yeah,
they could get that graphic together.
I don't know why they have. Have they done it? Maybe they have, and I heard about it and I don't remember. But I feel like that should be an easy thing to create on the digitals, at least.
I know, like they got a nice big new screen there. Yeah, get something to embarrass old Ducky fans.
We're gonna get to some NBA trade deadline chatter. We just had a big, massive breaking trade in the NBA.
Big, massive breaking trade.
Did you not see it?
Oh, I saw it.
You saw? Did you see it?
It just hopped across the line about 7 minutes ago.
Would you like to read it? You look like you're reading it.
Would you like me to break news this?
Well, actually, you can. Yeah, in a jokey way, because.
Breaking news here on The Fan. The Philadelphia 76ers acquiring Buddy Hield from the Indiana Pacers for Marcus Morris, Furkan Korkman, and 3 second-round picks. Excuse me.
That was close. That was close. I think
Korkmaz.
Yeah, Korkmaz, baby.
Thank you. I read that name way too fast.
Yeah, Sixers trying to salvage it a little bit. I have to go look at Buddy's contract, but he's been unhappy in Indiana for a while, but they've held on to him because he's a good player. But yeah, Philadelphia going and getting Buddy Hield. Utah also traded 2 players for some stuff in a first-round pick. Some young stuff. Kiara Lewis do anything for you? Huh?
No.
No? Okay. Well, Danny Ainge got another first-round pick, so.
Well, he's smart, and I kind of wish the Blazers would have picked Danny Ainge up for their GM.
We will get into it at 8:15, but starting the final hour of the program is going to be Ken Barkley. We will dive in. It's the anniversary, Schultze, of something that was said about a year ago, almost to the day. I'd have to go look at the date when it happened. But a press conference on trade deadline last year and how we feel about it this year. That's Crunch Time, brought to you by Crunch Fitness, as low as $9.99 per month. Multiple locations, crunch.com. Loaded final hour. Ken Barkley, You Better You Bet, joins us to kick off the final hour of the radio program. How is he betting the Super Bowl? Ken Barkley tells us next on The Fan.
In order for small businesses to thrive,
All right, welcome back in the final hour of the radio program here, Dirt and Sprague. It is NBA trade deadline day. We'll talk about the Blazers. Will they do anything? Like anything? I'm thinking of the picture of the character poking something with a stick. Do something, please.
No.
Get to a couple Super Bowl notes, but starting the final hour of the radio program every Thursday is our good friend Ken Barkley. You better you bet. You can catch it all week long. He's been in Vegas, and he's on Twitter at Lockie Lockerson. Ken, good morning. Instead of NBA trade deadline, is this just called the Super Bowl of Shams versus Woj? And if it is, who's the favorite? What's the line of Woj versus Shams in the breaking news department?
I think it can't be the Super Bowl because no one good is getting traded. So this is like the week 13 bad Thursday night Amazon game of Woj versus Shams. Like, oh my God, like you got that Miles Bridges wasn't getting traded before someone else. Like, oh no, like that's like I can't believe it. Like I really wanted that scoop. That was going to be so good. Wait, Kira Lewis is getting traded from Utah. Like, no way. I mean, like it's always really funny. Like the arms race between those two guys, obviously, and they used to work together. And like, the best part actually about their rivalry. So I mean, the betting line. I think Shams has been like, I don't even care, but like I think Shams has been first on a bunch of stuff recently.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if people know this, but like this isn't like inside information. You'll see it and how stuff is framed. They have like two completely different pools of sources. And they're like along very different lines. So like, and this is my opinion, but like, let's call it an informed opinion. Shams is really close with a lot of agents.
Mm-hmm.
And so he'll get stuff from the agents, and Woj is really close with a lot of the teams, and he'll get the teams. So it'll be really funny when a guy gets like suspended and Shams will be like, it'll be like framed as the agent, which is like very pro player, right? Like he is seeking an appeal. Like he insists he did nothing wrong. And then Woj will like swoop in with it's like, the team says that the player, so they're coming at the same situation kind of as the mouthpiece from two different parties. I'll say like, look, Shams a little younger, just maybe got a little more pep, and he's been first a couple more times.
Yep.
Put him as like a small favorite, but I'm glad both are around. It's fun.
Okay, you're gonna give me Woj sub a field goal money line? Like I'll take Woj plus the 2.5.
Like Mahomes, right? Woj?
Yeah.
He is? Yeah, he's like an underdog. Yeah, it's really good.
It's the same thing. Ken, there's a lot to get into with this game. First, can I ask very quickly, and I know nothing is ever very quickly here in these interviews.
Right. What's the implication there? What are you trying to say?
Well, yeah, we love you. At Vegas, you've done Vegas a couple times with Nick. How is this experience compared to the others?
The Super Bowl's it's just a little different for us because we have to work our asses off this week. Like we have a lot to do, like other media stuff, like other obligations, like, it's like, you probably go out to some nice dinners. Yeah, but like those are work dinners. Like we're like trying to accomplish something during them. And then, by the way, the show is on for 4 hours, like in the middle of the day. And, like we still have, like I get to call you guys and Nick has his like media stuff that he does. So we're, like my son at home wakes me up. He'll turn 5 next week. He wakes me up at like 6:15, 6:30 in the morning. He wakes my wife and I up. And so when I come out here, like, it doesn't matter. I could be in Hawaiian time. I could be in Sydney, Australia. At the equivalent of 6:30 Eastern time, I'm waking up. Like, that's what's happening. So here, that's 3:30. So it's dark, and only the, like, ghouls and goblins are out, like, roaming the strip. And it's like everyone's coming back from whatever they were doing. And I'm awake. So, like, it's, it's fun being here. Like, Vegas is a fun place. It's cool to see a lot of people you haven't seen. The place is jam-packed. There's like a bunch of celebrities everywhere. Like, it's fun. But at 3:30 in the morning, like, I'm waking up and it's like a work day. So, I think people think like, oh, like Vegas, like what a sick party, like every night. Yeah, maybe when I was like 22 or something, I would try to do that. But I mean, we are kind of here for work. And I know it's a show about sports betting. This is not, I'm not doing construction on the outside of the Aria right here, but it's a little different. He's good. Yeah, we're used to it, but we're regulars, right? We got our regular spots. It's going pretty good. You sound like you need to get down to the casino at 3 a.m. when your son calls and then order a vodka Red Bull and just get the day going. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, let that oxygen wake you up. And then I'll go back home. I'll go back home and he'll wake me up at 6:30 and I'll, like, in a stupor, be like, go out instead of hit the coffee machine, be like, Will, give me a vodka Red Bull and a pack of Marlboros. Yeah, let's do it. So.
Ken Barkley is our guest here. You bet. They've done great shows all week. I missed yesterday's. I apologize for that. Usually I'm a pretty big P1 of the show. I missed yesterday's, so apologies if you sorted this out on the show. But all week when I've listened, and you guys have had some great guests. You've had your usual guests, but they're in person now, which is fantastic. It seems that what I'm getting away, or what I've gotten away so far with you guys, is both you and Nick have been a little conflicted here, where some of your guests are like, no, this is the side I'm on. I'm in on this side, and I've made my decision. And it feels like you guys, for a lot of the week, have been a little kind of back and forth. It's Thursday. I don't want to spoil anything on the show today, but where would you say you're at right now? Kansas City plus the 2, San Francisco minus the 2. Over-under hasn't moved. It's at 47.5. Where do you think you are right now?
Well, you're right about the guest thing too, by the way. And let me just tell you, and like this will be true if we ever meet in person to do an interview. It's just like so much different. It's just the energy's awesome. Like Nick and I never do shows together in person. He lives in Staten Island, I live in Connecticut, and like when we're together, you're like, oh man, it's like this is crazy. And then so we had like Sean Merriman on yesterday, who is the scariest person. He's not even like, he was a nice guy. Like he was very nice. So I was very generous with his time. But like Nick even asked him, because he was like a dominant edge rusher who then fought like in UFC or like in MMA or whatever. Like this guy is like a lethal weapon. And Nick literally asks him, like, is there anybody in this, and we're in the media center full like 10,000 people. Is there anybody in this room whose ass you don't think you could kick? And he like kind of paused for 2 seconds and he's like, nah, not really. And it was just like very matter of fact. It was like, okay. And like in person, you're just like, oh my God, this is, like, okay, cool. No problem. Where am I leading in the game? I think probably my most likely explanation of what I think will happen, or what's going on in the market. This is the third straight week where the Chiefs are still being rated kind of according to their regular season profile. They did not have a very good regular season. That's the reason why they were a dog at Buffalo. That's the reason why they got out to 5 as a dog against Baltimore. And it's part of the reason why they're a 2-point underdog in this game. Now, it's kind of like the opinion of Kansas City is improving each week because, they keep winning and the other teams are losing. But, still a dog. And Baltimore and San Francisco were pretty equivalently rated in the regular season. Baltimore was a little better. So it's not like there's been some big adjustment for Kansas City. And every week, sharp bettors with influence that move the market have come in against Kansas City. They did it against Buffalo, and they bet Buffalo. They bet Baltimore very heavily, and that moved that number out to 5. And they've all bet San Francisco in this game. All of the biggest bets, all of the reported our sharp players are on blank. It's all San Francisco. So this is a pattern, right? It's for whatever reason, the rating difference between the teams is for people who are, again, smarter than I am, but there's something that does not compute to them about Kansas City this year. And they want to be on the opposite side of all these games that they've been burned twice. And I honestly think they're just going to get burned again. And I think that's what's going to happen. It's kind of that funny. There's just something happening here that's tough to quantify. Kansas City never looked like this in the regular season. They did not play one single game that looked like this, where the defense is maybe a top two defense in the league, and Mahomes and the offense finally look competent, and everybody's pretty healthy. This didn't look like that the whole year. So maybe that's tough to quantify, that this Chiefs team is different than week 8 and week 12, and even last couple weeks of the regular season. Maybe it's just different. That's always tough, when you want to use regular season stuff to make a decision. So I think it's Kansas City for me right now. That's just the thing I feel the most confident in terms of the side. But compared to other Super Bowls, probably not the strongest opinion I've ever had.
Well, yeah, no, that's okay though. And you said a couple things there. The first is I've been saying this all week. It doesn't happen often, but it's the underdog is the favorite and the favorite's the underdog. I know what you mean about the big bettors and how they're kind of dictating things sometimes. And you would be more plugged in on that stuff than me, but I think my producer for the BetQL show I do on Sunday nights, I think he passed me a note on Sunday, and we'll see what the percentages are today. 83% of the bets are Chiefs. I mean, we've been talking about it, and it's just Chiefs. It's Chiefs. It's Chiefs. It's Chiefs. And some people will go contrarian, go Niners just because, but, quantify it. I don't know if it needs much answering. It's Patrick Mahomes, right? Like I know all these things and all these matchups and EPA and success rate and red zone conversion. Like all these things do matter. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of people they're just going to pick Patrick Mahomes. It's the better quarterback. Many people believe that they have the better coach. They have the better defense. Like, when you comp them, no matter what the numbers say from the regular season, you comp them right now, and it's a game to win. Nobody's going to pick against. I mean, I know big bettors are, but largely, I think the everyday, the common person, they're just going to take Patrick Mahomes. I think that's what it is.
Right. I totally agree with you. I also would remind people, because I think people try to overthink this too. Oh, well, like now that I know everyone's on the Chiefs, now I'm going to bet the Niners.
Right.
And like, surely that must be the side of the game because everyone's on the Chiefs. I would just say like, look, the 83%, it could be 93%, it could be 73%, it's whatever. You'll also notice the market hasn't moved on those bets. And so like, my response is like, then I don't care about those bets. If they're not going to change the price that I get, then why would I care? It's the same bet that it was before my mailman bet the Chiefs and my babysitter bet the Chiefs and whatever. It's the same price. Like, I care when the price is changing. So, like, when the Ravens got bet and it got bet out a lot and it was 3.5 and then it was 5, now I care a lot because now I can get Kansas City +5. And to me, that is a very appealing bet. And I bet them to win the game also because the money line was moving. This is like the market is stable. So like the fact that everyone's on the Chiefs is very whatever to me. I would care much more if the price was moving. Like, does that change what I want to do? Like, how do I have it rated? When do I want to make the bet? And the fact that there has been enough San Francisco money, especially early in the first week from influential bettors, has kind of locked this thing in to them being favored, honestly. So like, I kind of think this is just like the last 2 weeks. I know, like the betting public was not on the Chiefs as aggressively against the Ravens, that nobody was on the Chiefs against the Ravens of any type, and against the Bills. But like who they're on is like not really my concern. And I would just kind of remind people like, all right, like in the last 10 Super Bowls, like who has the public bet on and who's covered? Like, I don't even remember. And I bet nobody else does either. So like, is it really that important? Like there are examples all the time. Everybody on earth bet the Lions to beat San Francisco in the NFC Championship and had them to cover that game. And like the Lions money line was a very popular bet. Like they almost have a 17-point lead in the second half. Like right side, like Niners won. Like this is where you lose me on this stuff.
Yeah. You don't strike me. Maybe I'll be wrong here. And I can't remember if we asked you this last year. You don't strike me as big, niche prop bets. It's one thing to maybe gamble the over of Pacheco carries or Kittle over on yardage or Kelsey MVP, assuming you think the Chiefs win. I think those are good prop bets, common prop bets that you yourself, with the information you collect throughout a season, find very valuable because I can capitalize on this. You don't strike me as I'm gambling on Gatorade color and over-under of Taylor Swift appearances or how many times Tony Romo says, Jim, in the actual broadcast. You don't strike me as that. Is that a right read?
So it's sort of. I'm much more likely actually to bet a bunch of the things that you mentioned, Gatorade color, national anthem.
Really? Okay.
Well, because those are kind of take all the props that are being offered, and there are a lot of them, and put them into two buckets. And the first bucket is like player performance, something that's random, something that involves the game actually being played, right? Who's going to score first? Will the game go to overtime? These are things where like you can have a good read, but really like all things are possible when you're watching the game. Like Chiefs could win by 50, Niners could win by 50, like anything's possible. Then there's a second bucket, which was what I would call information-driven props, which is stuff you could actually know for sure. So you can know for sure what the Gatorade color is. Let's say you knew the person who was standing next to the Gatorade. You would know what color it was. There is no doubt about what the color is. That's what it is. It's like a binary thing. It's like 100% you can know what it is. You can know what the national anthem time is going to be. They rehearse it today, and we will know what the time is. And then a lot of people will go bet a lot of money before the markets get pulled on whatever they do, rehearse it twice. The times are almost always identical. And then, I mean, this is a television show. Like the anthem time is going to be the same as the rehearsal time. This has now been like kind of blown up where everybody knows that this happens. So you can't really bet a lot of money on this anymore, but it used to be a really cool thing. Like you could literally time the rehearsals. That information would get distributed. You could bet into the national anthem. It was not a guess. We knew the answer, and it was right. And it's the first halftime song. That rehearsal has to happen. You're going to know what the song is, and you're going to know what the last song is, and you're going to know who the special appearances are. Like, is Alicia Keys going to be there? Is Lil Jon going to come out for Yeah, the last song? Stuff like that. These are information driven. I, at times, have been privy to a lot of really good information and have been able to make money betting those. So, like, that stuff, I'm much more it's just, I don't want to call it free money, but it's just different than, like, is Kelsey going to go over 5.5 catches or something like that?
Right.
The player stuff, like, I'll bet it for fun. I don't have, like, a strong opinion. I don't bet that stuff all year. I do have Kelsey to win MVP. I like some other stuff in MVP, but, like, in terms of, like, who's going to do what on the field, I'd rather bet the Gatorade color. I'd rather bet the stuff that I can actually figure out the answer to.
Could I get you out of here with helping us poor people out with, like, one little of these prop bets that you feel like you have information?
So I knew you were going to ask me this. I don't have anything right now.
Okay.
I believe I have like 3 people I talked to about this because we've just been working all the time. I feel like I've had a headset on for 50 hours. I haven't been able to be like, hey man, like what's going on with this thing? Also, like not as many places offer it now because they've gotten burned so ridiculously on this stuff where like people know all the money gets jammed in, you lose, like the book just loses on that bet. Like what fun is that? So I think the rehearsals usually happen I'll use last year. It's in Arizona. The rehearsals happened on Thursday. So we knew national anthem time. We knew first and last halftime song. We knew all the outfit stuff that usually gets posted. Like Rihanna performed last year. It was like there was a bunch of stuff about what she was going to wear and what the set was going to look like or whatever. Thursday was the day last year for all that stuff. My guess is it'll be the same today. And my guess is also that like this stuff's too public now. Like I'm probably going to get a note from somebody and I might have 30 seconds to bet it before everyone's just jamming this stuff and stuff gets pulled. So I wish I had something for everybody. I really do. If I did, I would say it. And maybe I'll get some stuff later today.
Well, thanks for hopping on with us, man. I totally get it. I know it's sometimes it's looked at as like, he doesn't have a real job, and I get it, but I know how incredibly busy you probably are over there. Coming on with just us in Portland, Oregon, and you probably have a million of these. We do appreciate your time, and thanks for waking up early at 3 a.m. West Coast time. Welcome to Pacific Standard Time Zone. Seems like you're not enjoying it all that much, given what time you're waking up, but we appreciate you hopping on, and good luck with your bets. We'll talk to you next week.
Not only am I enjoying it, I told my guy this earlier yesterday. I go, I love coming on with you guys. It is never a burden. I did not mean to insinuate I don't want to come on. I will come on whenever you guys want. Love you guys. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, you're the man. Enjoy the Super Bowl, Ken.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right, there we go. Ken Barkley, You Better You Bet. Really good stuff. Him and Nick Costos do an exceptional job. They're live in Las Vegas as he's living that Vegas life, baby. NBA trade deadline is here. Are the Blazers going to do anything? Next on 1080 The Fan.
The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Fan.
All right, went a little long there with old Ken Barkley of You Better You Bet in Vegas. It's funny to look up a OPB article from a year ago. Trailblazers active at NBA trade deadline. They exchange Hart and Payton II for 3 forwards. Yes, we did. We got Tease last year. We got Cam Reddish. Can't forget Ryan Arcidiacono. Come on. We can't forget that acquisition.
Actually likes the Reddish pickup.
He
looked okay the last 20, 30 games of the year when Dame wasn't playing, of course.
Kevin Knox. Kevin Knox do it for you? No.
Doesn't ruffle my skirt.
All right, yeah. And 5 second-round picks. We also waived Greg Brown III a year ago today.
I'll tell you what, the Blazers are experts at if winning a championship involved getting second-round picks, I believe the Blazers would win that. They are experts at grabbing second-round picks.
Well, I think it's fair. Schultze, today is usually a big day in the NBA. It's trade deadline. We got some trades to speak of. Let me check it. It's a little difficult to kind of examine the social media landscape live during a radio program. But if I'm looking, let's see. Knicks are sending Quentin Grimes in 2 seconds to the Pistons for Alec Burks. So, okay. They're getting some veteran guard/wing play. Pistons are trading Bogdanovich. Wow, they are. Okay. Knicks got Bogdanovich. I kind of like that. For Evan Fournier, who's been just a disaster. Malachi Flynn will go to Detroit. So New York picks up Alec Burks. I like that. They get Bojan Bogdanovic. There's a couple Bogdanoviches in the NBA right now. He's really good, but he's been in Detroit, so nobody knows.
Yeah, he can shoot.
Yeah, a good veteran guy.
Not what I bet on him the other night, but I digress. No, seriously, he's going to hit 4 threes tonight. He hit one, yeah. I've had one of those with Austin Reeves. Wizards send Gafford to the Mavericks for Rashawn Holmes. There hasn't been a lot of movement. Sixers acquired, it looks like, according to Shams, Buddy Hield. Mm-hmm. So they've made a move in trying to keep up with everything as Embiid's timeline is still kind of a fluid thing. There have been some moves, but it's largely been reported for weeks now. This deadline's not great. It's interesting to read what the Blazers were doing a year ago and how something they were saying a year ago didn't really play out the way that they said it was. And, the landscape of trading in the NBA, the Portland Trailblazers have 2 current advantages with the current team that they have. Now, if Malcolm Brogdon gets traded right as we sign off, which would be very universe for that to happen to us, then one of these things may be a little tweaked. But there are 2 things Portland advantage-wise has, and I also want to examine what they were saying as a franchise exactly a year ago at the same point of the season, and we'll get to that coming up next. But first, Schultze with the Sports Update.
This is a Super Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update is brought to you by Stanford's. This classic American steakhouse has exactly what you've been craving. Visit them in Clackamas, Tannisbourne, or online at stanfords.com. First on The Fan, a few deals already being made before the NBA trade deadline. That's at noon today. The Utah Jazz sending Kelly Olynyk and Ochai Agbaji to the Toronto Raptors for Kira Lewis Jr., Otto Porter, and a 2024 first-round pick. Also, the 76ers acquiring guard Buddy Hield from the Indiana Pacers for Marcus Morris. Furkan Korkmaz and a group of 3 second-round picks. The Charlotte Hornets trading Gordon Hayward to the Oklahoma City Thunder for guard Trey Mann and forward Davis Bertans. Also, the Celtics acquiring Xavier Tillman last night from the Memphis Grizzlies for 2 second-round picks. The T-Wolves flipping Shake Milton, Troy Brown Jr., and a 2030 second-round pick to the Pistons for guard Monte Morris. And in a separate deal, Detroit grabbing Simone Fontecchio from the Utah Jazz for a 2024 second-round pick. The Blazers have not made any moves yet, but they do begin a 7-game homestand tonight, and the league worst Pistons are in town visiting Moda. Portland a 5.5-point favorite. Tip-off at 7 p.m. on Root Sports. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schultze from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Get in the game at Spirit Mountain Casino. Watch and wager on all the pro football playoff action. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
The Fan is live on YouTube and Twitch. And now Window Nation brings you on-demand videos. Watch Window Nation's window into 1080 The Fan.
Winter is here. If your vehicle is in an accident, Life's Auto Collision Centers is ready to help. One call does it all. Life's can.
Well, NBA trade deadline day is here. Shams and Woj anniversary, or Super Bowl matchup, you should say. Anniversary-wise, I meant to say is today is being called Kobe Day. 2/8/24.
Oh, yeah.
I believe his daughter that was also in that accident with him, it was number 2.
Yeah.
Obviously, Kobe was 8 and 24. Kobe Day.
Rest in peace, Kobe.
It's a good video on TNT's NBA account. Shaq narrating a video is really good. Still wild that happened.
Indeed. Yeah, I was just watching some videos of him, highlights, and then that YouTube just took me to some of the speeches at his memorial. And yeah, shed a tear, man. That stuff's sad.
The New York Knicks care about getting better. Evidently, they've made some moves. They've added Alec Burks and Bojan Bogdanovic. So you've got some scoring, some guard play. Brunson rolled his ankle. It appears he's going to be okay. But the New York Knicks care about being good and being better. It's interesting to think now it's deadline day. Portland, I think, with that move, with New York's move to get Bogdanovic, would be out of the Malcolm Brogdon sweepstakes. And as we've noted before on the show throughout the week, it's been noisy to the point where Grant and Brogdon appear to be staying through the deadline, which, by the way, no matter how you feel about that, some people want to trade. Some people say patience, patience, patience. I don't know if there was a single person that if I would have asked you right before media day would have said, if I would have said, hey, on the deadline, they're not going to make a move. I don't know if there would have been even one that goes, oh, yeah, I can see that. That makes sense. I think when they made the Dame trade, we just kind of naturally assumed one or two of these veteran guys was going to get shipped and you were going to get more stuff resulting from the Dame trade. It doesn't appear right now, and this is such a ever-evolving, situation here because the deadline's going to expire at some point. But Portland right now has not made a move. I will refresh my Twitter timeline because you have to do that on this day.
Don't think they have.
And still haven't. A year ago, the general manager traded Gary Payton II, their mid-level signee from that previous summer, back to Golden State in exchange with Detroit for 5 second-round picks. They got rid of Josh Hart to the Knicks, who was pulled in a layup line, and they went and got Tease and Kevin Knox and some guards that don't matter. And Joe Cronin had this to say at the trade deadline press conference.
You won't see from this group a lack of trying or a lack of innovation or a lack of creativity. We're going to be ridiculously aggressive to the point where once we push our chips all the way in, like deal to deal, you might look and say, wow, they lost that deal. They gave a lot for that guy. But no, that's just us pushing our chips in. We feel extremely obligated to put a great roster around Damian Lillard. And when I say we, that's from the top. Jody and I have had a lot of conversations about how important it is for us to do right by Damian.
They did right by Damian by sending him to Milwaukee to go play with Giannis. They put their chips in a different way. They put their chips in the, hey, we're starting over.
Yeah, after they asked him to sit for the last few games to acquire a better draft pick so they could supposedly help him.
Well, multiple seasons they actually did that.
God, this quote is one of the major reasons why I'm so mad as a Blazers fan at this organization. I'm glad you're playing it today because, yeah, we get to remember.
That was a year ago.
We get to remember this last year of not dishonesty, but I would say the wrong thing
very
being
misleading.
said.
I mean, I think
the wrong thing being said publicly.
Yeah, I think a lot of things, like nothing has to be concrete one way or the other here. Like
exactly.
Very misleading as an organization what they were doing. While also you can certainly point and say good decision that they made.
I disagree with that too, but that's a whole other conversation.
That's okay. Time will tell who was right and how close were they to being right. What's funny about this is I believe it was February 9th or 10th, so it's almost a year to the day. I remember this because I was playing golf. It was actually a beautiful day out. I was out at Glendevere playing with my brother-in-law, who's a diehard fan, and we were following it on Twitter. And he was like, they just traded GP. And I go, what? And yeah, they traded him with Detroit and Golden State. And they're getting 5 seconds. And I went, and then I listened to the press conference and the chips all in the middle thing. And I'm like, look, I'm not saying they should be making a move today for the sheer sake of saying we made a move.
Yeah.
They actually have some things that work in their benefit with the landscape of the league. What are they, you might be asking? Well, let's start with first. They're not trading Malcolm or Jeremy today. Those guys will be at least here till the summer. I don't know what happens in the summer. Malcolm has expressed, wanting to be here. Jeremy seems to like being here. For the first time in a while, we've got actual good producing veterans that want to be in Portland. That seems like something we haven't had in a while. There's one benefit. The second is you're seeing a lot of movement with second-round picks, Schultze. Portland's been one of the better, I think, developing / picking second-round teams in the league. Like, in a world where second-round picks are more used, the way that at one point it felt like first-round picks were, second-round picks are commodities, especially to an organization that I think prides itself on finding talent, scouting talent, developing talent, and they have. They've hit on some good ones. So you're sitting with a decent amount. You're continuing to evaluate the landscape of the league and build up more second-round picks. Now, none of what I'm saying right now is exciting, I think, to some people, and I understand it. I think what's interesting is the flip from where they were at a year ago of we're going to put our chips all in. They just put it in a different direction than what they were saying publicly. And, it's just kind of like we're just kind of left stuck waiting.
Yep.
It's a constant wait. It's, well, there's nothing good right now. Wait. Nothing opened up now. Wait. Hey, it's not there yet, but wait. It's a lot of wait. This isn't year 1 of the tank. This is year 3 of the tank. It just has been disguised as something different the previous 2 years, whereas now it's like Scoot Henderson is out there at 19 years old. That's an obvious one. So it's just tough because in the city, the term wait, it's not as welcomed as you want it to be. And so they're stuck in this kind of no man's land of they're not good, but they're not the worst. But they've got some second round action. This draft kind of sucks. Is there anybody really worth trading for? What I'm seeing so far is no, there's not a whole lot out there. Quentin Grimes doing much for you. Doesn't do much for me. So it's just they're kind of in this wait period. And I don't think that sits well with a lot of people. Again, not saying they should be making a move for the sake of making a move, Schultze, but they don't appear as of right now at 8:42 a.m., in case this gets dated poorly, not making a move. It is just wait. And a year ago, they told us what they were going to do. They did the opposite. So I don't know where people are at just with general trust of what they're deciding to do or not do today.
Well, this is a development year. We all know that. But I do think going into the year expecting to trade Jeremy Grant and Malcolm Brogdon was a pretty solid thought. But looking at the landscape, it's not really. I mean, even this summer, I think that was one of the issues that the Blazers were having trying to deal Damian Lillard to the Miami Heat or the Bucks or whoever else they talked to that we don't know about if they even did. The deals just haven't been there as far as huge returns. And I don't know. You got a lot of first-round picks for Dame. You talk about the second-round picks that they've acquired. I mean, essentially, if Kamara and Repair hit, you've got like 2 Nicholas Batums on your team, like prime Nick Batums. They fill the stat sheet up. They got long arms. I like
Jabari.
Threes.
Yes,
exactly. Jabari Walker at the 4. I think a couple more years of development, he could probably start in the NBA. They've got young pieces that are there and that they can develop. But the frustration of just the hold on, wait and see. I mean, we've almost been there so many times as Blazers fans, and now we're just kind of sitting on our hands, as you said, waiting after a year of hoping that 7 months of hoping that the Blazers could do something with Damian Lillard before ultimately realizing, no, the organization has just given up.
Yeah, I'll put a poll question up on this because what you're saying there, like you're saying in a couple years. All right, so cool. We're halfway to a decade of sucking, and we're going to continue to wait to see if that pays off. And my only argument on this, because you can make good points on both sides of the fence with the Dame stuff, for sure. I just think the West sucks. And yeah, Jokic is in your way. But much like we're seeing in the Super Bowl, like Patrick Mahomes is going to be in everybody's way his entire career. You can't be paralyzed by the fear of one player. I think the West sucks. And I think it's kind of open. And I think there's an opportunity. So I'm not in the full camp of, a couple years. I'd like to press this thing fast forward a little bit. And I think you got pieces that actually have value and can help you compete quicker. You just have to make difficult decisions. But that's the part of team building that you have to have anyway. It's the ballsy nature of the job. I just don't think the city is built and wants to be a couple years.
Well, even if so,
give us something optimistic. And you could certainly say young players are an optimistic viewpoint. I wouldn't disagree with it. But what I mean is give us something that's competing in a weak Western Conference. I mean, Oklahoma City, I don't think they're going anywhere. Okay, so there's them. Denver, obviously. The Clippers, as of right now, but they're aging veterans. The Timberwolves, I think they're really good. I think their roster's still a little weird. Dallas hasn't figured it out. The Lakers are aging. Utah, I don't know. Houston, okay. Golden State's aging. I just think the West sucks. And I think you can hit fast forward on this thing instead of saying a couple years. Because right now it kind of feels more like that than the fast forward button. How do you feel about the Blazers if they make no move today? Do you care? We're going to show up next with that on The Fan.
The Fan invites you to play in the first annual Fan Winter Golf Classic at X Golf Tualatin and X
Somebody texted into the Vancouver Ford text line, still sour grapes about Lillard going to Milwaukee. Portland wasn't going anywhere with Dame. That was all caps. That's why I read it like that.
I like it.
Honestly, who would have Portland have gotten that would have moved the needle? This rebuild is awesome. At least we're moving in a direction and not standing still with Dame.
I mean, Kristaps Porzingis was acquired last offseason at a pretty cheap price. There were deals to be had. There just, in my opinion, wasn't a very big effort from the Blazers to actually put all their chips on the table.
I mean, I think standing still comment is kind of contradictory to the listener's entire feelings.
Okay.
So you're jacked about the franchise that decided to stand still around Dame for like 6 years.
I mean,
and then the directional part. Like, look, sour grapes. I don't care. Like, I watch Dame in Milwaukee now. All right. I'm just merely pointing out what the messaging was a year ago at this point and what's happened since. And if you love the rebuild, that's great. But it's moving in the right direction. I mean, I guess you can make a point, but so 2 small guards again, doing that. A questionable 2 guard at this point. Like, I think it's only fair to be honest about it. I like Shea. I call him Baby Kobe. He played 30 games this year and may not play another. And then you've got like 9-year vet, 7-year vet. Like, I guess the question is, you can think it's going in the right direction. And my response is, so standing around Dame wasn't going to win, but the team decided to do that. And now the team's deciding to, I guess that's just where I get confused. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they will sort this out. It's not saying there's lack of trust by Joe Cronin, but certainly this thing started out a little misleading, and now here they are a year later. And again, the trade market blows. This is not some huge, big referendum on not making a trade today.
No.
I'm just simply pointing out where they were at a year ago, the messaging at that point, where they're at now, and how and what they're doing going forward.
And it's fascinating that fans, to your point, responding to this texter, it's fascinating that fans believe that this rebuild is going to be a success with the lack of pieces that they've been able to acquire, as opposed to, as you just pointed out, standing pat around Damian Lillard. I mean,
they chose to stand pat. That wasn't a, hey, Dame's not willing to have any moves happen. That he wasn't the general manager.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. They chose to stand pat. This is the same front office that you're saying, oh, they're absolutely going to be able to pull something off. After you played that clip from last year, I don't know what to believe at this point, and I don't think fans should be putting all their chips in this game saying, well, they chose just kind of hold off, not really make any moves, stand pat on the whole Dame thing, and now, well, they'll be able to make the move when they need to. I don't believe that. I didn't see it with Dame, the best player in franchise history. So why am I to believe that's going to happen with Scoot, Jeremy, and Malcolm?
Well, they also have to figure out the Ant Scoot thing, because that's just not fair. That's not realistic. It's just not in any way realistic to me. We'll see what happens. I hope Shaden comes back, but it doesn't appear as we sign off today. Keep it here locked on the Fan. You'll have Danny and Dusty noon to 3, and I'm sure Danny's going to have a whole lot to talk about with the trade deadline and maybe no movement at all. And then, of course, Isaac and Suk. That's going to do it for us. We'll see what happens. Maybe the Blazers will make a move. Maybe they won't. Certainly doesn't feel like they will, but stay tuned for it. Tomorrow's show, it's going to be a busy one, Schultze. We got a lot of Super Bowl stuff to dive into. We'll Sprague the line at 8:30. We will get to some of these fun prop bets. Ken Barkley surprised me. He participates in it. I wasn't expecting that. So we'll talk about the matchup, the game, how excited we are. Think about this one, too. What are you eating? Do you know what you're going to eat for the Super Bowl? I like to find out what people are eating, get some good ideas there as well. It's going to be a fun Friday show going into the Super Bowl, and that's going to do it for us. Thanks for tuning in on YouTube, 1080 AM. The Odyssey app, 99.5 HD2, however you listen, or on podcast form at 1080thefan.com. Thank you, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow, bright and early, 6 to 9 a.m. on Portland Sports Leader, 1080 The Fan.